All right, let's talk about the Las Vegas Raiders. Obviously, the season has been a disappointment. There's no hiding that. But at this point, the Raiders have to do what every team does in this situation. They have to evaluate who their future leaders are going to be. And it looks like the Raiders are doing that. In fact, they maybe identified a key cog for the future. I think this is a bright spot for Vegas. I'm Nick, and this is Saturday Morning Inspection. All right, so this time of the season, for any team that's underperforming, any team that's missing the playoffs, even if you're not underperforming, even if you're just in a rebuilding stage, it's important to use this time wisely to identify what young players are ready to step up in the future and be key components of potential winning seasons. And it looks like the Raiders have identified one of those players in a rookie offensive lineman. Let's pull up this report courtesy of SI.com. With now a 2-8 record, the Las Vegas Raiders could start looking at the roster to see who will be here in the future, like I alluded to. Jackson Powers Johnson has played three different positions on the offensive line, and he has excelled in all of them. We are seeing Powers Johnson taking over at centers, and he is learning how to lead the offensive line. Yeah, I think it is pretty interesting to see a rookie go to a position you never played really much in college at left guard, said Raiders head coach Antonio Pierce. Then 1 week, fill in for someone that is injured. Then for the next couple weeks, have to make all the calls. And he has done a really good job. His energy, his presence, his physicality, you see throughout the game. High effort, very smart football player. And when he's controlling the line of scrimmage as a center, making the calls, you see his personality come out more and more. That is where you see those leaderships from a young player start to stand out. I think that is good for our team. The more guys we can have talked up and taking that leadership role, regardless of their age or experience or money or draft, the better for us. And Antonio Pierce is saying the exact important message here. You don't build winning teams from scratch. You don't go from terrible to good. You have to build the core around that. And one of the ways you can do that is taking losing seasons, bad campaigns, and seeing which of your players will be the leaders, which of your players can develop into the key stars of future success. And it looks like JPJ, Jackson Powers Johnson, is situated to be that for the Raiders going forward. Miles, I'm curious what your thoughts are on this. But first, Raiders fans in the comment section below. The rest of the season, a lot of football left still, but what's the one thing you want to see the Raiders do? What's one thing that would get you more excited for the future? Is it, seeing Jackson Powers Johnson continue to get better, seeing another playmaker on offense, or seeing a young defender break out? Whatever it is, let us know in the comment section. What's the one thing you want to see from the Raiders the rest of the way? Put them in the comment section below. But Miles, what are your thoughts on this latest news out of Las Vegas?
Yeah, Nick, I think this is great news for the Raiders. I think, obviously there are some other young rookies that are mentioned, but I think Jackson Powers Johnson is the main one. Notably, Brock Bowers, definitely a huge playmaker, very skilled, very talented. DJ Glaze has been doing admirably as well at the right tackle position, but there's something special about Jackson Powers Johnson. Being that vocal leader, being the face of that offensive line, being that field general that he is starting to become, I think that's really, really important because playing at a high level a la Brad Bowers, that's great. And, I think that's good, but that doesn't do as much for the whole team. If Brock Bowers could be Gardner Minshew or Aiden O'Connell's target every single play of every single game, and, the Raiders scored 1,000,000 points, that would be great, but you just can't do that from that position. But Jackson Powers Johnson, he is a guy that can elevate the play of all of those around him and really get people going. And I think there's proof in the pudding here, especially when you look to the guys to his left and right. You look at Jordan Meredith, career year for Meredith, an 83.2 PFF grade on this season. The prior seasons, 60 grades that he had had. You look to the right of him. You look at Dylan Parham, 75.3 PFF grade for him. Career year for Parham, 60 grades in the previous 2 years after that. These guys playing beside Jackson Powers Johnson, he's able to elevate their level of play. He's able to elevate the level of play of this offensive line through not only his play, but through his leadership as well. I think we're seeing something really special here being built along the offensive line in Las Vegas.
Yeah, I agree with everything you said there. I think it's important to understand, and I kind of mentioned this in the opening. The one thing you don't want to do if you're having a losing season is to stick with veteran players that are going to be expensive just because you're trying to win a few more games. You know what? One team is doing that so far, and I think it's going to hurt their futures. The New Orleans Saints. They fired their head coach, Dennis Allen. Of course, you Raiders fans are very well aware of Dennis Allen. And they've won a couple games. They beat, I think, the Cleveland Browns. They beat their division rival Atlanta Falcons in a close game. And they're feeling good. They're slapping themselves on the back and they're really excited. They're playing a lot of all their veteran guys. They're playing Taysom Hill a bunch. They're doing the things the Saints normally would like to do if they're contenders. The problem is the Saints stink, right? They're not going to make the playoffs this year, and they have a massive future question mark. What's going to be the answer? And they're going to go into next season, 2025, with a lot of new pieces that are going to be brand new, and it's going to be a struggle. What are the Raiders doing? And there are other teams that are doing this as well. What the Raiders are doing is they're putting young guys in difficult positions. They're getting a lot of different guys on the field in different environments. They're trying to figure out who's going to be on this team. What is this team going to look like towards the future? Turnarounds don't happen overnight unless you already have your franchise quarterback. Like the Chargers are a good example of that. Chargers were terrible last year, but they had Herbert, right? They had the pieces, they had the quarterback. They just needed to fix a few things. The Raiders don't have the quarterback right now. They got to solve that problem. But tangentially to that, they got to figure out all these other key pieces. And I really love the fact that they've identified JPJ as a key leader and they're putting him in challenging positions because you want to have your core in place. When you get your franchise guy, when you build your roster, you want to have all the pieces ready to make a run at a title, right? Or at least make a really good shot at it. If you don't have the pieces ready and you get your quarterback and some other skilled position guys, you know what happens? You become the Cincinnati Bengals, right? The Bengals got lucky. I'll say lucky. They tanked for Joe Burrow. They got him. They got Jamar Chase. They got a couple great runs there in the postseason. But what happened? They didn't have the core around those players. Now they're terrible again, despite having an all-pro quarterback and all-pro wide receivers. They did not put the core in place first. The Raiders are doing that. You know who else put the core in place first? The Detroit Lions. We're seeing how it's working out for them. I love the improvement from JPJ. I love the fact that he looks like their next big leader, but I also think this is part of a smart strategy for the Raiders as well.